see. Let's see. So, Mr. Beshay, are you Peter right here? Because I can make you live. I thought it would be instantaneous to make you a panelist. I'm going to promote you to a panelist, and let's see if that works. All right. So, Mr. Beshay, if you're the panelist, you can switch on your camera, and then we can go from there. All righty. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey.
Got you going. Hang on. Let me switch you over here. Let's see. How's everything going for you today, Mr. Beshay?
Fantastic. And how are you?
Doing good. Doing good. Yeah,
Good.
doing some catch up today and making sure that all of this goes well. I think this is the first time I was able to get the Facebook Live working, so it feels pretty good.
Let's see. Exciting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, let me just do some last minute touches right here to make sure that we're good with the panelists. All right, so I'm going to be looking down when the Q&A starts and the chat right here. So let's see, we've got a couple of participants on. We're going to be just going here. We're going to be chatting about leadership and also going through different times and tough times today, and we're going to be having some talking about persistence as well, so it should be really fun. When at the end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start asking questions. So if anybody wants to ask any questions, they can just go to the Q&A section. And I also have my Facebook Live feed open, so if any one of my friends is watching, they're more than welcome to ask any questions if they see something good. Okay, but Mr. Peter Beshay, how are you? How's everything going on your side? Everything going very well?
Everything's doing great. Obviously, as good as can be. We are adjusting, we are adapting, and we are, as a family and as a business and as a team, also, choosing to focus on the right things and be very, very wise about it at the same time.
Right. Yeah. And that's a tough thing, is focusing on the right things. I've always had that kind of a trouble, and I've got to force myself to look in the direction that I want to go. And one of the things I've always noticed about you through the years that we've known each other is you have a very good, you have a very positive mindset, and you're very patient and you're very focused. So, from us shaking hands to whenever we're on the floor to whenever we're just talking, you have all those three qualities, and they seem to serve you really well. And I'm sure that's been a big help during this time, right?
Absolutely. And I appreciate you mentioning that. This is something that helps me and helps the people that that are around me to keep moving forward, even in difficult times. So yes.
Absolutely. Well, we'll talk a little bit about what is it that you do? How long have you been doing it? What has your path been to your businesses and your leadership skills that you've shown me over the years? Tell me a little bit about yourself. Where'd you get started, and what kind of leadership do you like to use on a regular basis?
Well, long story. I was born in Egypt and moved to Canada. I was about 9 years old, and met my wife to be ending. I'm just accelerating because I'm not going to take the the entire day of giving a whole lot of details.
Sure.
Met my wife to be back in 2002, and we decided to make our home San Antonio. So moved to San Antonio around 2004, where I started my marketing agency to help companies, business owners grow, brand themselves, present themselves, and communicate well with their own audience, so that with our help, with our partnership, we can help them grow and help them mostly focused on what they do best, which is growing and managing their company.
Mhm.
That's the name of my company. That's called Boss Creative.
Yeah, yeah, and I know we've talked a lot about leadership in general because our classes they focus a lot on that, and your family's been very active in the leadership classes, helping the basic students, and not only that, but why don't you tell everybody how many kids you have, and how well as of a team they work together?
We have been blessed with
Yeah,
5 children that are fascinatingly different and
yeah,
fascinatingly, you know, yeah, uh, together as a team at the same time. They make quite the unit, and over time, and especially with all what they've learned through martial arts, with all that
mhm,
they've developed and grown through studio martial arts, and everything that you and the Seahings have taught us.
mhm,
Um, they have been able to focus on their discipline. They have been able to, develop some emotional intelligence, and
mhm.
have a lot of positive attitude. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of room to improve
Right.
for all of us, but at the same time, I am very proud of how far they've come, and yeah, where we stand. That's
Oh
awesome.
yeah, and they've just I always tell the story because I had the privilege of teaching you on your first lesson, and I've always talk about how much they've improved, and just from that very first lesson, how they've just grown into great leaders. I mean, I'm always complimenting both Mia and Amelie and Mateo for how well they take care of their younger siblings all the time because Samira is still pretty young, and you just had Matilda a little while ago, and
Hmm.
they are always
Hmm.
keeping good a good eye on both of them and really working very hard. But I think that's also a testament to kind of how you go about your regular day and how you've raised them. They really do grow very well. And you've told me about your leadership experience, how you started multiple companies, and also how you've had multiple groups where you've had to guide people through certain steps on how they start businesses as well. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. But before I continue,
Yeah.
I can't take all the credits. My wife has been a superstar, rock star, superstar mom, superstar
Mhm.
doc, and you know, we wouldn't be where we are today without her. Yeah, her own leadership. That
Right.
I know even if she's a lot, behind the scenes, she actually homeschools them, and at the
Mhm.
same time takes care of a lot on top of her actual work. And she's a
Mhm.
physician, so
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
she's carrying a lot of weight. Absolutely.
Oh, team effort, right? A good team.
Always,
Yeah.
always,
Oh,
always.
great, great. Yeah, and Amy's always been a pleasure. Every time we get to, I know she has to move from A to B really, really quick, but every time we
Hmm.
talk with her, she's always just very, very sweet and very, very happy to see us, and it's always really great. So you got a great family unit there, man. You really do. So
Thank you.
it's always
Appreciate
fun
that.
to watch. As a married man and as a leader, it's always fun to watch.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I agree. It's also somewhat of a spectacle from time to time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're all over the place. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, but
Keep
it works,
it
man.
keeps
It,
us
it
on our
really
toes.
does. But I know
Yeah.
we've talked about that you've helped people start businesses or to expand on where they have been. And I know a lot of what we teach is paying it forward, teaching other people to do the same. What was the experience that you had? Because I know we've talked about the group that you were involved with that you started, I believe, right?
Absolutely. On which one? I've been part of a
I
few, so
think
I'm
the
I'm
one that
sorry.
I'm thinking of specifically is the Christian group for young business owners that we talked about that you did a while back. I'm pretty sure that was what. Am I right on top on that one?
Yes, 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 yes. I mean, that was actually back in Canada, where I've had the opportunity to learn about business. Believe it or not, I wasn't even planning to get into the business world until
Hmm.
I I got approached and I got involved into this young entrepreneurs back in the days. I think I was 15 or 16, where I had the opportunity to build my first business, and learn about what type of product to manufacture, what type of
Hmm.
clients to cater to. And at a very young age, it was a fascinating experience.
Yeah, yeah, and I know that that really helped you get the experience because it was you at a much younger age, and you talked to me
Mhm.
about, yeah, you know, it's all a matter of experience and having faith in what you're doing and looking at the right things and trying to help other people in that way too. So that's something that I've definitely picked up on from what we've talked about, and it's really been helpful. Yeah,
Thank you. Of
yeah.
course. I mean, hey, we have had great mentors,
Mhm.
and that also gives us the responsibility to inspire and teach others, mentor others to,
Mhm.
achieve their best and outdo their own limits and grow.
Yeah, yeah, and I know that before we talked here, we were talking about the persistence and really, really keeping the right kind of leadership during tough times. And right now,
Mhm.
naturally, a lot of people are going through a lot of different change, and leadership, I
Yeah,
think, right now plays a big, big role in making sure that you can get through that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And leadership is everyone's responsibility in this specific day and age, in this specific time.
Hmm.
And all of that is built around, I believe, two main pillars or two
Hmm.
main elements that we have to start in our mind and be able
Hmm.
to perceive, specific things that are dangerous or specific things that are an opportunity, and allow our mind to focus on the right things.
Hmm.
We've all, probably not all, but most of us knew who Bruce Lee is. And
Hmm.
one of the greatest pieces that I have seen and heard him uh, saying and sharing is how he um, inspires people to become like water.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the water, wherever it flows, it actually, takes the shape of wherever it is put into.
Hmm.
And water, and if again, I'm going to try to do it justice by
Yeah.
repeating what I've heard and about what he said. Water will, will allow the adaptability of
Mhm.
whatever, mold it's in. And taking that great example, I actually brought something here that helps with the perception,
There you go.
the perception angle of what we're talking about. Everybody probably has heard of the half full, half empty.
Right.
Everybody has heard about this. But
Hmm.
while we're at it, how about if we actually look at it a little closer?
Hmm.
Some people will look at the waters like the cup of water, like, hey, what are those bubbles? Is there a soap stain? They don't even realize that there is actually something inside the cup, right?
Hmm.
So some people don't train their mind to see past the superficialities, which
Hmm.
is, you got to be careful with that. Another person will just look at, the half empty part of it. Another person will look into the half full part of it. Another person, maybe an engineer, would say, well, you know what? The water is actually double its size.
Hmm.
Anyhow, the opportunist will actually drink the water. But,
Yeah.
hey, I'm thirsty.
Right.
Another way to look at it is the water is actually half water and half
There.
air,
Hmm.
meaning that the water is 100% full,
Hmm.
but it's the same cup, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah.
We were able to go through probably 4, 5, 6, 7 different scenarios
Hmm.
looking at the same thing. So perception is I'm actually thirsty. Hold
Go for
on.
it.
So
Yeah.
basically, we are able and we are in full control of how
Hmm.
we perceive things,
Hmm.
situations, people, opportunity, challenges.
Hmm.
And this is the specific time where this muscle, this
Hmm.
perception muscle, has to be at its best. And we do
Okay.
not have the choice but
Hmm.
to make sure that it is at its best, because this is a survival tool.
Right. Right.
If we cannot mold our perception, then our minds are going to be foggy, and it's like, oh, we're going to go into panic, and we're going to let the crazies take over, and it's like, oh no, we have the responsibility to focus on the cup 100% full.
Right.
We have the responsibility to adapt, and those two main elements will allow us to lead and will allow us to help the people around us who need us right now.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you have to really be looking for the good things in that. You have to really be trying to mold your perception, and if you just let your emotions mold it, then that's what's going to take you down lower and lower and lower and lower, and you're not going to be able to get that kind of response, action, whatever it is that you need to survive in that. You have to really get your mind there. But you're right in terms of your perception is everything. And I think that right now, a lot of people are having difficulty with that, seeing that perception is everything. And it's a hard time, but the more time you put into it, the better you'll be at it over time, practicing.
Indeed. This is our time to focus. This is our time to lead. This is our time to shine. And this is our time to help the ones who need our help. And they're all around us. Everyone, these days we're looking to connect, we're looking to grow, we're looking to even share, how things are affecting our lives, how things are, not what we plan to be. That's not our plan. There's a bigger plan that's at work right now, and it's very humbling, for lack of a better word. But
I can agree with that. Humbling. Yeah, it's one of those things where, you have to shift, you have to change, but you have to have that perception first before you can really implement everything. And I think that's why the water example, I mean, Bruce Lee is always great. Bruce Lee is always fantastic. Yeah. And, but the extra on that, looking at it from here and here, yes, but what is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to be looking at? Where is it that you want to go? And we've talked a lot about an aim, having that aim as a good, proper thing. And you know what? What's always helped me is just sitting down and getting a piece of paper and a notepad and going, where do I want to go? What do I want to do?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in this time, what are some of your big aims that you want to accomplish right now? What are your priorities during everything? And how does the leadership flow into that? What are some of the things you want to do?
Obviously, first, I choose to see that this is an opportunity. I choose to see that this is the place and the time for me to work on me, work on my family, work on my team, work on, preventing this from happening again in the future or affecting us as much in the future. Because I'm realizing that, no matter what, I am in control. No matter what the situation, no matter what's being thrown at me, I am in control on how I react to it. And this obviously is monumental for us to be able to, grow through this and survive and thrive. And like everything else, it will pass. We need to know this, and we need to believe in this, and it is a fact. It will pass. And after it has passed, we need to also plan for getting back on our feet and making sure that this transition, I call it transition, is only very, very little damaging, and it's actually an opportunity to grow and help and grow and inspire others at the same time.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're really using that framing in everything. Like you said, you call it a transitional phase, not a full crisis emergency. And I think that really helps with the framing, because the framing now is crisis, emergency, panic, all of this. And those words are telling us, oh, this is bad, 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 bad. And it just keeps going. But when you reframe it, when you say, okay, this is transitional period, what do I have to do? Where do I have to go? What do I have to focus on? It sounds like that's a big part of the way you go about it on a regular basis. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And I mean, we have the responsibility to take care of ourselves. We have the responsibility to take care of all our loved ones and all the people that are in our, circle. And while this being taken care of, while we focus on the immediate, we also need to keep in mind that there is a short term, there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long term, and there is a long term. And there is a long ter not just the immediate. So there's the immediate, there's the short term, and then there is the long term that we always have to design and keep in mind that it is around the corner.
Right.
I don't know how big that corner is. It could be a couple of weeks, a couple of months. Nobody knows exactly, but it is still around the corner. And no matter what, we will turn that corner together and we'll come out standing, because this is the choice we make today.
Right, right. And goals are a big part of it. Goals are huge when it comes to that, because you need to be able to look at your next steps and the long term, which is why we always go for our black belt. You know, we always talk about, okay, black belt, we either are going to get our black belt or we're not. Maybe means no by default. And that seems like it's the same thing that you're thinking about. It's like we either have a yes or a no that we're going to make it through it. There's no maybe, there's no, we either have to be fully here or fully there. Is that what I'm hearing?
There is no try.
You know, I love it.
Yoda said it perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. No try.
Correct.
Do or do not, right? As the great Yoda said. So, it sounds, you know, I've seen you really adapt that. And not only that, but your kids really put that into play too. Because whenever I see you all in the school as a family, you all are very focused on what you're doing, and the kids don't complain, you know, in that way. I have not heard that. I can't remember when. And so it's fair to say that that's the kind of way that you like to take your teams, is you like to make sure that that trickles down. Because, whenever they're coming in, they'll come in and they'll do all their stuff. And it's never, oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, I don't want to do that. It's like, okay, let's do it. We're going towards our black belt. We're going towards our next belt. We're going towards this. And why do you think that is in terms of how you affect your teams or your children or everything? What do you think's the big thing? Is it walking the walk? Is it saying it every day? What would you think? I'm sure there's probably a couple of things.
Well, obviously, if you focus on the problem, then you're going to attract more problems.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you carefully understand, absorb what the situation is bringing to the table, and focusing on a solution to that situation, then obviously there is growth, there is goals that will be attained, and there is adjustments along the way that will allow us to get there. So together, this is something that, that we believe in. And this is something that I have personally lived, and my kids are living through the martial arts through your teachings, and through, the seeing Mr. Harrison, Mr. Whalen, and Mr. Manalagat, and everyone. They have a very good, goal-oriented, very focused, very, very wonderful drive towards something positive, and something that allows people to be inspired by.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a very important thing with culture. You know, the culture has to be there. It has to be. It can't just be said. It has to be put in a fundamental level. It's got to be repeated. It's got to be lived in. And one of the things that has been so great about the school is that we really have been very lucky to have good people all over, and really that just want the same things that we do. We want to make sure that that positivity is there. We want to make sure the goals get achieved. We want to make sure they're better people at the end of the day. And it's been very, I've been very fortunate to have Mr. Harrison, Mr. Whalen, and Mr. Manalagat. And, the team, what does Maxwell say? Teamwork makes the dream work, right? And that's the name of it. And so it's been very lucky, but I think that's the big thing that's been able to carry us all, is the culture is there. It's ever present, and we all just work towards making ourselves better and making the culture better and hitting our goals and going one step at a time. And so it's been very fortunate, but I know we've talked a lot about that, and you've been, anytime I feel like, oh, I have something I need to ask Mr. Beshay because I'm kind of dealing with this, you're very, okay, well, that sounds good. That sounds good. Here's what I think you can do. And we've had a couple of conversations like that. So it's always been really fun.
Absolutely. Enjoyed every single conversation. And I'm actually very excited that, we're on the same page on so many different things. And, we you and I are able to look at the big picture and look at the growth out of it, and how, it's something that can make a difference. And it's been awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you
it's
for
been
listening.
great. It has
Of
been,
course.
and but I love it how whenever because the kids as they went through, they started your kids started helping out the basic students quite a bit, and they were
Mhm.
really and they really took on that leadership role, which was really fantastic. And
Absolutely.
that's kind of the aim. And as Mia has grown up, she's had to take a bigger role because she's the oldest,
Hmm.
helping out the
Oh, yes.
youngest. Yeah, and so it's
Yes.
been really something. But uh, what um, what would you say would be the number one thing if you had to say, okay, here's what you need to do first? Would it be keep yourself focused on where you want to go? Would it be keep your mindset in the right perspective? Would it be
Hmm.
try to help out what would be the first stepping stone? Would it be perspective?
Perspective, I believe, is the first one, because if it's not right in there, you can't help anybody.
Yes. Yeah.
So, first thing is allow your mind to see what needs to be seen.
Hmm.
Allow your mind to adapt to what is, right for that specific situation, for that specific opportunity, for that
Hmm.
specific challenge, and see the cup a 100% full. That
Yes.
is every single one of us's responsibility. And
Hmm.
then once we see it and understand it, then we're going to be able to adapt and lead ourselves and lead
Hmm.
others to become their own leaders so that they can pass it forward,
Oh
of
yeah.
course.
Yeah, okay. So perspective would be good, and then naturally it's seeing, right? You said seeing. You have to see what's around you. You have to be observant. You have to see yourself. And the
Correct.
next thing, what was there's a big part about having that vision, right? Having that vision and really being truthful with yourself. And right now, integrity with yourself and with vision seems like a really important thing because you were saying that if not we're going to go crazy here, crazy there,
Mm-hmm.
crazy this, crazy that, right? Do you think
Yep.
that integrity really has to be there as well after the perspective?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Integrity is what's going to guide our
Yeah.
perspective. It's
Yeah.
going to guide our perception of what we are going to be able to do with the, lumber of integrity and doing things the right way for the right reasons
Hmm.
for everyone. And without that, I mean, this is, yeah,
Right.
it's structural
Oh yeah,
to who
absolutely.
we are, what we've done. And we have been, believe it or not, we have been preparing subliminally for this all our lives by building the character that we have
Hmm.
right now. Because during times like these, during those trying times, this character is actually being displayed.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
no time to build character anymore. This is it. This is what we've been building ourselves for all this time. So,
Mm.
right now, we have the responsibility to ourselves and to others to make that happen.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what's the challenge reveals what you really are inside, right? Because the pressure brings, what was it? Howie was talking about when
Mm-hmm.
you squeeze an orange, what comes out? Orange juice, right? And so
That's right.
pressure, what comes out is that, and I really believe it. And it's been one of those things where you constantly have to be focused on what's the next step, how am I looking at it, what am I going to do next, and
Absolutely.
it will pass. And until then, you got to make sure that you get to that end point feeling like you've been able to make that. Isn't that fair to say?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. There is no other choice. The enemy is actually letting go or quitting or giving up. This is not even an option. So it is something that is going to happen. And this is part of what the next steps are. And we're going
Mhm.
to go through this, we're growing through this, and we're going to help each other through this so that we
Right.
can, come out spreading our wings and shining together.
Yeah, that sounds great. And you said something really important, how there's no choice in failure. Quitting is not an option. This is not an option. And that sounds very much like if you want to take the island, you've got to burn the boats. There's no other way. You've got to keep going forward. And I think that that's important for people to hear, is that laying down who was it? I think it was Ray Kroc. He said, you're either green and growing or ripe and rotting. So if you're not going, you're never in between. If you're not going forward, you're going to be slowly going backwards. And I think that having that mindset of I'm not going back, no option, is going to drive you to that forward mindset.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, it sounds great. It sounds really good. And what have been some of the things that you've been working on during this time? I know that you run an ad agency, and right now, naturally, it's very tough for small business owners. What are some of the things that you've been adjusting to and trying to go with?
Obviously, we are here to help our customers and help a lot of them adjust to this situation. And obviously, there is a different situation that they're going through. So every single one is different, obviously. And this is something that we're doing. And from ourselves, we're also adjusting and adapting and growing through it so that we are able to provide the same quality service and same quality solution to them, and at the same time be very empathetic and be very collaborative and be the partner that they've hired us to be and they've trusted us to be. And this is where, you know, it's real.
Yeah, and
that's the proof.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things that I've really been trying to do, is really trying to empathize where people are, because naturally this has been a huge hit on multiple people, just looking at the numbers, and it's a balancing act, because you want to provide the best service and you want to empathize with the position and you want to make sure that you understand where everybody's coming from and still work with them in that way.
Of course.
And that's a pretty tough balancing act. And it sounds like you have the right aim for it.
That is the goal. That is, what we do aim for. Absolutely. Because many of our customers, they're in a position where they have to almost reinvent their entire business model, their entire, customer acquisition, customer relation, et cetera, while having to survive at the same time, which is very challenging. And so we are here for them, and we're here to assist wherever we can.
Oh yeah, and that's a very good way to go about it. It's been fun, and the same here. I mean, you've seen what we've had to do, change over to Zoom and add and provide some more content, and it was one of those things where it is adaptable, but the message is the same, which is the big thing. And it sounds like your message is what is prevalent throughout this whole course. You were the same when you started, and now you're still giving that message all the way across. And that's the big thing. And that's what goes back to culture. I think that it always jumps back into the culture and the messaging from there. And if you have the right considerations, the aims and messages, they will be able to transcend a lot of the change and still continue. It sounds like that's what you're saying.
That is correct. Absolutely. Yeah. I completely agree with you.
Yeah. So it's been a very fun ride, and I've really enjoyed it. And it looks like we've got some people asking questions right now. But Mr. Beshay, before we start getting to questions, you've talked about perspective. You talked about adaptability. You've talked about goals. You talked about that. You talked about making sure that there is not a give up. I'm going to do this and I'm going to get through it. If you had to leave off with anything, what would be the best advice you can give to the people that are listening right now on keeping themselves focused, keeping themselves on what they need to do, and being able to understand that this will pass? What would be the best thing that you would say?
Always remember that setting goals, short-term and long-term goals, will allow each and every single one of us to have a sense of purpose. And that sense of purpose will allow us to grow and go through this, I see opportunity, but at the same time, challenging time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's wonderful. And Mr. Beshay, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. I really am grateful you came on today. And we had started.
Back at you.
Oh, thank you. And we've started with some questions. So let's see. Guys, fire away. Mr. Beshay is here to answer any questions that you might have. we have the Q&A spot right over here. And if you all want to ask a question, just feel free. I'll be able to answer it live. But we have a first question right here. It says, question, without good integrity throughout a special goal, I feel that your goals do not reach the full aspect and potential. What are your thoughts on that?
The integrity is part of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that you have to have as a given. This
Right.
integrity allows you to have the right perception of what the situation is,
Mm-hmm.
and build your adaptability and your vision and your resources towards getting to that goal. Integrity is just part of it. There's no way you can actually take the integrity out of how you should perceive certain situations or certain, tasks or certain things that you can do. And that's how you're going to be able to accomplish what you set yourself out to accomplish. And that's how you're going to be able to help the people around you that look up for you, to you, and are part of your, inner circles.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And let me ask really quick off of that question, what is your definition, your personal one, of integrity? Because we are talking about making sure that these two things are tied together 100%. If you could define integrity for yourself, what would it be?
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I've had one great mentor that told me that integrity is never negotiable. But what it actually means is that you're doing the right thing, following the right, purpose and for the right reasons, no matter the cost, no matter the situation, which I believe is my simple definition of what integrity is.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And it also sounds like what you're saying is that it should be 100% sincere who you are. It could not be faked in that way. It cannot be counterfeited. It's got to be fully you in order for you to get what you need to get in terms of your life, in terms of your goals. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Authentic, real, and you don't step away from your core.
Oh, nice.
Of who you are.
Yes. Absolutely. And then it says right here, here's another one. This one's from Master Joe. If you lose perspective on your goals, how do you go about regaining that focus?
That's an actually great question. And I'm going to refer back to my wonderful example. Yes. The 100%, the glass is 100% full. It is. Actually, it's such a great comment and a great question, because as humans, we are subject to this thing called gravity. It's normal that we're attracted to, go down, and, some things affect us emotionally, and some situations that are not easy to deal with. But at the same time, as humans, we have the choice, and we have the strength, and we have the focus, and we have the right to stand back up and keep moving forward. You've all heard, Rocky, and it's not how many times that you get knocked down to your knees, but it's how many times you can stand back up and keep moving forward. Love that quote, by the way.
Yeah, and the great thing about that is the reality that we will fall down. We will lose our footing. We will have these moments that do. What does he say? It'll beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it, right? And so,
if you let it, thank you.
If you let it, and so. It's important to always say that you will have these experiences, but it's how you look at them. It's how many times you're willing to stand up. And nobody's immune to that. Everybody just handles it a little bit differently, and that's just one of the things. So that was a really good question from Master Joe. And then let's see if we have anything.
Thank you, Master Joe.
Yeah, Master Joe is fantastic. He was on the other day, and it was really, really great. Oh, look at this. Oh, we got some good people on Facebook. People, if you all are watching, you're more than welcome to ask some questions. Feel free. And then, okay, so Mr. Beshay, can you tell us whenever what is your process for regaining yourself? Do you have a specific process that you do? Let's say you make a, let's say that something like this happens, you make an error or something. What's your back on track process that you do? Do you have anything specifically?
Well, it's simple to let's say it's easy to beat yourself up, or it's easy to do a whole lot of negative things, but it is also critical imperative for you to just take the time to absorb what
Mm-hmm.
happened, understand what caused whatever happened, and at the same time re-strengthen yourself to be able to get back on your feet
Mm-hmm.
as fast as you possibly can. So take
Mm-hmm.
the time to meditate, take the time to focus, take the time to pray, take the time to, you know, change the scenery.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's, you know what, in order to deal with specific situations, sometimes it's important to step away from that situation so that you can absorb it better,
Mm-hmm.
understand it better, get it back into your mind better, do the 100% full thing,
Yeah.
which is right in front of us. It takes a
Mm-hmm.
fraction of a second. It doesn't take much time to just, you know what, train your mind that this is not the end.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity of growth, and this is an opportunity to learn so that you're going to be able to do it better next time. Because perseverance is, yeah, the mother of all.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things I have to do. I have to step
A
back.
bit. Yeah.
I can't be there in the midst because I've got to get my mind to where it needs to be. And if I'm in the middle of it, I get bogged down pretty easily by everything that's going on. So sometimes I just have to back away. Some people like that sort of chaos in the moment. That's where they shine. And you really have to
Mm-hmm.
just figure out what it is that you are good at doing or where your mindset is when those things are. And it's not necessarily right or wrong. It's just a matter of learning and seeing. Like you always say, you got to see what's going on. And so that's a really good way. Yeah. And I
Absolutely. I
know
mean,
you're, oh,
that's
what?
that circling back into something. I'm sorry to interrupt. Circling
Yeah,
back into something that, we've been taught through martial arts and through studio martial arts. Like, hey, stop. I don't want to fight. We need
exactly.
to step away, and we don't need to just make it worse by like trying to solve whatever. If it's not time sensitive, it's time critical. It's important to, learn from the experience and walk out. Don't go after. If you have to, then that's fine, of
Mm-hmm.
course. And hey,
Mm-hmm.
defend yourself as part of what it is. But if there's a tough situation, there's nothing wrong to, after you evaluate that you can step away and step back from it and be able to learn from it and come in from a different angle, different perspective, different analogy, different logic, to
Mm-hmm.
look at it from different sides so that you can resolve it better or
Mm-hmm.
learn from it. Then this is the greatest opportunity.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And being able to see that, and that's a great thing that you tied it in with before what we were talking about. And tell us a little bit about your personal life. What are some of the hobbies that you like? I know we've talked about books. You and I have jumped at books in great length. What are some of the hobbies that you like to do when you're not working?
Oh well, I am a hobbyaholic, if that's a word. I love to swim from time to time. I love archery. I love music.
Mhm.
Love music a lot. Love horseback riding, especially with Mia, the horseman, horse lady.
Yeah.
And I love spending time with my family.
Yeah.
They're awesome, even if sometimes like, well, it gets to be intense. But
Mhm.
yeah, those are the things that I love to do.
No, that's great, man. That's great. And all those things are all very, what's the word? They require your focus, especially music. Do you play anything in particular?
A few,
You
a
play
few
a few.
instruments. A few. Yes, I've had the privilege to be kind of involved in the world of music at a very, very, very young age.
Mhm.
So I've played too many instruments, from
Wow.
guitar, piano, trumpet, whatever. It's okay.
That's pretty great though. That's amazing. That must
Yes,
have
it
taken a
is.
lot of discipline though at the same time to be able to do those.
Yes, it sure did. And throughout my, growing, my young age, my young days, my young years, it helped me get a different creative perspective on life because music is, the language of the soul. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about discipline. What are your thoughts on maintaining your discipline regular, the consistency of what you're doing? Do you have any advice on discipline or any advice on what to do for the people that are striving for their goals? Do you have any advice on that?
Absolutely. You have, I mean, I have as an individual, as a person, I have, the daily goals and then the daily kind of accomplishments, the high level things that need to be done, accomplished. And at the same time, you also have kind of a more long-term type of a, you know, discipline tasks that
Mhm.
you have to follow, and you have to be able to fit that in into the different categories. Of course, as a business owner, I have many of those, so I have to
Mhm.
kind of follow through. But uh, make sure that you always take care of yourself. Make sure that your health comes first, your immune system comes first. Make sure that the 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 focus that you gather to be able to keep moving forward is always in place. And this is part of either devotionals that you can actually, you know, um, make sure it's taken care of, or the discipline of meditating from time to time to be able to realign your focus.
Mhm.
And this is something that I enjoy to do on a regular basis as well.
Yeah, yeah. So you're basically saying start with yourself and be consistent with that. When you talk about health, exercise, mental health, because they're both just as vital as having that physical and that mental, and one can't be without the other, basically, to what I'm hearing.
That is absolutely correct.
Right, right. Okay. All right, perfect. Let me see. Everybody, let's see who's got another question for Mr. Bechet. Anybody have another? Oh, we got one. Let's see what we got right here. All right. What do you feel is the first steps of a person should take when they're faced with problems that suddenly happen? So, what do you think are the first steps that people should take when they're faced with a problem that I think we've talked a little bit about perspective. Is there any
Mhm.
buildup on top of that?
Well, there is not one rule of thumb. Every single situation, every single problem, every single challenge, every single opportunity is completely different.
Right.
It depends if it's affecting, your life, it is affecting someone else's life. It depends on, the gravity, et cetera, et cetera. So there's not necessarily one specific rule, but at the same time, you have to be able to see what is in your control, and
Mm-hmm.
what is in your control of things to do. Then do what you can, do what you need to do,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously grow, learn, and do the right thing, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. I would add on, if it's a long-term thing, always try to condense your vision of this bad thing, this bad thing, this bad thing to something that you can manage. Don't try to manage the full brunt of it right away. Try to condense it a little bit. So, uh, for example, like what I've tried to do is I can't think about every day that's coming. I can't think about it every day specifically in terms of what's going to go wrong here, what's going to go wrong here, what's going to go wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
I have
Mm-hmm.
to be understanding of this is where I'm going, this is what
Yes.
I can control, and next step, next step, next
Bingo.
step.
Bingo.
Because it's very easy to get overwhelmed when you get hit all of a sudden. That's the easiest way to burn yourself out right away and make yourself want to stop.
Of
Yeah.
course. And always remember that no matter the problem,
Mhm.
you are faced with it to be able to grow through this specific problem.
Mhm.
That's just life. And one more thing that everybody probably has heard this little quote before: how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time. One bite
Amen.
at a time. Yeah.
Correct.
Well, and
So
that's
sometimes the big problem is a combination of smaller little problems. Break it down and take care of whatever you can take care
yeah.
of. so that you can solve it one piece at a time.
Yeah, and that's a big thing to remember is, I think that a lot of people, that last question, that was also from Master Joe, by the way. That was a really good
Oh,
question, Joe. I think that a lot of people right now are just feeling the brunt of everything so fast because the change did hit hard and it hit very, very fast. And,
absolutely.
it's one of those things that really shows the reality of what life can throw at you. It can really throw things at you. But we go back to our Rocky quote. Doesn't matter how hard you hit, how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And so, I think that.
Thank you for using the right words.
Exactly. Well, it's, but those things are in our life everywhere. We've talked a lot about the different quotes and the different things that we've seen. And that's why your perspective is so important that you were talking about with your glass. If you're
Absolutely.
looking for the half fully full or the glass fully full, you're going to find that. You're going to find those things to get you there. And I think that this all circles around to that perspective. I think it's a very important aspect of everything. And so, but hang on, let me jump back in. And Master Joe has one more.
Okay.
Are leaders born or are they developed? What do you think? That's a good.
We all know the answer to that question.
We all know the answer.
Leaders are made and developed every single minute of the day. Nobody comes out, yeah, look at me, I'm a leader. It doesn't happen. So it's a great question. And I'm a fond believer that leaders are made and leaders are self-developed as well.
Yes. And I think that's true as well. I really believe you can get yourself to where you need to be if you do it enough times and you learn and you really stick to what you're doing, that persistence, because we talked a lot about persistence and that persistence matters. And a lot of people have been able to come out through the worst of things by just persisting. And Master Joe says he agrees, by the way. So he agrees with 100%. But what's that really good Winston Churchill quote, right? When you're going through hell, keep going. If you're
Perfect.
Yes, and so it's a very important thing to make sure that all you do is keep going and keep persisting and keep adapting these things. Keep that mindset thing. Keep the perception, keep the freshness of it. And I think that's wonderful. And I really love it that we can talk like this, Mr. Beshay. I mean, it really means a lot. And I'm glad that other people get a chance to see you for how I see you as one of my mentors, be able to talk and hear about what you have to say. And guys, that being said, if anybody wants to ask another question, okay, Gabe got one. Oh, this is great. Okay, this is going to make you smile, Mr. Beshay. Gabe Gallegos just says, I just wanted to say I miss you guys very much. So that was a good one. Thank you, Gabe. We miss you too very much.
Back at you, Gabe.
Yeah, and Gabe, remember, I mean, we're not far away. We're a click away on your laptop now. So feel free to come in. And Mr. Beshay will be there. He's there every Thursdays and Tuesdays. So if you want to come in, please make sure you do. Does anybody else have anything they want to say or any questions they want to ask to Mr. Beshay before we start to wrap this up? All right, let's see. Let's give him a couple of seconds.
What I wanted to share with everyone as the final questions are coming through is, no matter the distance, no matter the situation, we are still all connected. And that connection is worth it.
Right.
Never lose that perspective.
I agree 100%. And also, to add in on that, guys, I believe 100% in what Mr. Beshay is saying, and you all have made a difference in my life like you won't even believe. If you met me when I was 10, 15, or 18, or 20, you would have met a very different Sifu. You all have changed me very much for the better, and same with Mr. Beshay. So you all are my school family, and I'm here for you. And so is Mr. Beshay, and so is Mr. Harrison and Mr. Whalen. Oh, here we go. And I just thought I'd say thank you to build off of what Mr. Beshay is saying. And Master Joe's got another one. Why do you think people lose that? Are you, Master Joe, if you could, are you referring to the connection or the perception of connection? If you can just type in what you're referring to. Let's say he should be coming in pretty soon. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
That statement that you just replied to. Oh, I guess, why do you think that people lose their connection? I guess, why do you think that people lose the idea that they're still connected? Why do they feel disconnected? I'm assuming that's what Master Joe is saying. If you think I'm right, Master Joe, give me, okay, he thinks we're good. So why do you think people lose that connection and that they feel like they're disconnected?
My own humble answer is I believe that some of us focus on the distractions instead of the actual cup being 100% full, which disconnects us from others who are trying to help or at the same time need our help, and worst, disconnects us from ourselves. So be careful.
I think
you need to focus correct on the right things. Thank you.
I think you said something very important there. Be careful. I think that's a very important saying. And the reason why I say be careful is because every action you make has a consequence. And if you focus on what's easy, it's not going to bear the same fruit as if you focus on what's good or what you want to achieve or what kind of things. And you have to be able to see that and move forward with it. I think that's what you mean by be careful. It's easy to to feel like you're disconnected, to feel like you don't have that anymore. And I think that some people find it very comforting in some way to feel that way. And in the long run, it doesn't happen.
I agree.
I think I froze. Let's see.
I think we're good.
Okay, perfect. We're back.
I'm good.
I think I froze a little bit. All righty, perfect. Well, guys, Mr. Beshay, it's always a pleasure. From as sincere as I can be, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. And I really appreciate it. And everybody who was on today, congratulations for being on today. We really, really enjoyed having Mr. Beshay as a part of our interviews. And next week, we are going to have Mr. Harrison and Mr. Whalen jump in. So if you all want to listen to them and see what leadership makes them tick and what their background is, that's going to be a really wonderful time. But Mr. Beshay, thank you very much again. And I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can do this again. We'll see when we can schedule you back in for another one. But I think that today really hit home. Yeah,
I believe so too. I enjoyed it. And thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the inspiration and leadership that you've been displaying ever since the day we met.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
You, sir.
You helped me, and I'm glad that I can be a help too. And thank you very much for everything. So guys, good work all the way around. We will see you on the next one, but we are officially closing this one out. Mr. Beshay, hope you have a great day and a great weekend. We will see you in class.
Future black belt, sir.
Black belt, sir. Let's get it. All right. Have a good day, Mr. Beshay.
You too. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Be safe out there.
Yeah, we'll do. You too.
Thank you.